thought I'd do some recording because I'm going downhill, which is one of the few times I'm going to be running today. And I'm off to a pretty good start, and things are going well. It's a beautiful morning, and just met up with Jenny. She's packing up the car behind me and is going to meet me in about 3.5 miles at the next aid station or stop. And in the meantime, I'm getting to enjoy a beautiful sunrise as fall colors really come in here.
Here's the story of my 100 miles on the Finger Lakes Trail. First of all, thanks for watching and being a part of this. And I want to let you know I am going to kind of go through the background, some of the logistics, some of the things that have stuck mentally for me. And then afterwards, I'm going to have some pictures, some video clips. So if you've just got a few minutes, hang in there, watch this if you want to get the details. And then at the end, you can check out the pictures and videos if you have the time. So first of all, going to back up to how this kind of came to be and give a little bit of background if you're interested in that. We'll cruise through that and then get into some of the more fun stuff. But this year I was feeling pretty good. I had done a 50 miler in the Catskill Mountains. Is pretty tough just in comparison. So the 50 miler in the Catskills had the same amount of elevation gain as the entire 100 miles I just did. It's really rocky. It's really tough terrain out there. And after coming off of that, I thought, wow, okay, felt pretty good. Weirdly, I had run this race before 8 years ago, and I finished to the minute with the same time, which was incredibly odd. But anyways, coming up off of that, we then had the race we direct, me and Jenny, my wife, the Finger Lakes 50s. And so that worked out well as far as having some downtime after the race. And having some time to at least physically recuperate. Mentally, it was tough dealing with the race. There's a lot that goes on with that. But then, started thinking about it in July. I was like, well, what do I want to do? Do I want to continue training? There's a lot that goes into this as far as your mileage per week. Getting out, it's not like you want to just be, maybe running on a track or something like that. If you're going to be running on trails with a lot of elevation change, then you want to be running on trails with a lot of elevation. So getting back out there and started thinking about this and looking at races around me, and there was nothing that really made me want to go sign up. There's some great races around here, but just for whatever reason, nothing really caught my eye. And I just started thinking about the trails around here, and of course the Finger Lakes Trail. And once my mind kind of latched onto that, I was like, well, I'll just go into some of this GPS software and start mapping some of this stuff out. And that's where it came up with the route. So coming up with the route, then I thought about, well, there's so many people who know about the Finger Lakes Trail. There's, an organization dedicated to the Finger Lakes Trail creation, maintenance, adding sections, helping out with maintenance. There's the Finger Lakes Trail Conference is who that is. And so once I kind of put that together, I was like, wow, wouldn't this be great to not only, yay for me, go out and try to run 100 miles, but I could also do something to kind of give back to the trail community. And, so many people know and use these trails, whether you're walking, hiking, running, whatever that might be. It's really an incredible network. There's lean-tos on the trails. There's a lot out there and a lot that goes into maintaining them. Now, the second part of this is logistics. I knew that this was something I can't do myself. The upside of doing something like a race is that you have aid stations for you. You're paying to run a course. They've planned out the logistics. You generally have to bring some of your own things with you, but they're going to have, water resupplies. They're going to have some food for you. They're going to have this and that. With this, I needed to basically kind of take care of everything myself or ourselves. And so that first thing was looking at how we could do this. And luckily, the Finger Lakes Trail in this section of New York, we cover a lot of populated areas, so the logistics of getting in and out wasn't too difficult. There's some service roads or improved surface roads, but this time of year they're in good shape. It wasn't terribly difficult, so it just became, okay, how do we plan this out in terms of where the aid stations should be, how much water, how much food, all of that, and then getting 2 of our friends on board, which was amazing. I think that one person supporting this could have done it, but that would be really hard. And I'm going to have a section here with Jenny where she's going to talk about supporting and helping out and what that looks like. But with one person, it's kind of the idea of 2 is 1 and 1 is none. If something was to happen to my one support person, they were tired, they got lost, something happened, then, everyone's in trouble. So by having a few support people, that made it a little bit redundant, but also made it much more likely for everyone to enjoy it and have some company and keep things safe, honestly. And to answer a question, is the one I get asked most, is, are you going to run more 100-mile events? And I'm not going to, the classic response to this immediately after doing this, or any sort of long distance race is like, no, I'm never doing this again. I never do it again. And then a month later you sign up for, your next race. And to be honest, I won't say that I'm never going to do it again. I think I'm just going to kind of wait and see. I really enjoy doing things like this where it involves some of the planning, kind of doing something slightly off the beaten path in terms of coming up with our own routes together. Jenny and I have run around Mount St. Helens. We've done the Timberland Trail around Mount Hood. And so getting out and doing some of these, maybe an overnighter or just a really long day type of trip is something that we both really enjoy. And so this appeals to me. And part of the fun is in the process and putting this all together. And this one was especially fun because we're going to get to make a meaningful donation to the Finger Lakes Trail Conference. Running 100 miles is something that's definitely been in the back of my mind for so long. There's a funny story. If you want to ask me in person sometime, I can tell you, or Jenny can tell you about the time we tried to run 100 miles the week before we got married. That's its whole thing. And I will leave that out for now, something we can just go over in person if we cross paths. But it feels really good to have completed this. And I think that part of this, being part of the logistics, plotting the course, dealing with everything, that it's not just the run, it's everything else, and helping get everybody together, getting all of the support I had. I don't think it's so hard to say, but I don't know if I would have finished without the support I received, both from the support crew at the aid stations, but also the pacers in the night, which I'll show some pictures and talk about that in the following sections. I just have a lot of gratitude that things worked out. This isn't going out for a walk around the block. There's a lot of things that could go wrong. I'm glad that one, I'm safe, that my crew, pacers, everyone was safe. There was no injuries. And there's just a lot that can go wrong. You can go out for a walk and sprain your ankle. Covering 100 miles, most of it on trail, you could come across a loose rock or trip on a root and faceplant, and it happens. But I'm just grateful that things worked well. I was able to really take it easy, slow down, get through that, kind of maintain a pace. And I was really happy that I was able to, well, you'll see a short video clip of this. I wouldn't maybe call it running, but I was able to do kind of a modified shuffle run, even up towards the very end, which I think was a good sign of how things were going. So with this, I'm going to quit talking for now. I'm going to switch over. I asked Jenny if she would share her thoughts on this from the other point of view, kind of being the crew chief, the support chief. And so we're going to transition over to me talking to Jenny and see what she has to say. And then after that, we will go into some of the videos, the clips, and photos with a little bit of voiceover and information about kind of what's going on. Jenny, I would love it if you would share your point of view or things from the support, the crew, that side of things, because we've talked about it, but honestly, I'm kind of interested to hear part of it. Since I was running most of the time, I didn't see you guys except for a few minutes every 4 to 5, 6 miles. So can you let everyone know kind of what's going on behind the scenes, maybe the lead up, whatever you feel like sharing?
Yeah, so first you did a really good job of planning out where the aid stations were. So Adam plotted out basically 18 different points that he wanted to have support. And that might seem like a lot, but towards the end, it was actually really helpful. So for the most part of it, we would have 3 of us helping support Adam. So we had 2 friends, Ashley and Brad, who came and helped support after the first few aid stations, which was invaluable, honestly. Yeah. But yeah, it was kind of the same thing over and over again. We would open up the back of our cars, we'd pull out table and snacks and chair and water and just kind of anything that we felt like would be helpful for Adam.
And recharging stuff.
That's
the,
right.
like, we've got the watches, we've got the phone that the watch was relaying my track through my phone to that map that everyone was able to see, but that just eats power.
Yeah.
So one of them would grab my watch, grab my phone, plug it in. So, you know, even though I'm only sitting for 5 or 6 minutes, then it was able to recharge a few percent and actually basically stayed kind of steady, which was nice.
And we had kind of a routine. Each of us had a slightly different task to do as Adam came into the aid station. But our priority was always on where is Adam? What does he need? And so our challenges came from when we didn't know where you were. So when we didn't have cell reception, that made it really hard for us to know where he was, and we would try to estimate. But I mean, that's kind of a luxury to know where your runner is exactly on the course. The GPS tracking with Garmin was really useful in that regard. Or when he lost reception, I guess you also went through places where there was little to no reception.
So how about you guys? How much sleep did you get?
I got about 20, 30 minutes of sleep. That was really challenging too. We could tell that mentally we were sleep deprived by about 3 a.m.
They seem tip top to me, but it's a thing. I've helped support races before, and it's long races like this, and it's difficult. It's its own endurance thing.
Well, in addition to being sleep deprived, I mean, we weren't just sitting on our butts the whole time. We were out loading and unloading, and, you know, the cars and getting things ready, and then a flurry of activity when Adam came through. And as soon as Adam, you know, left our kind of staging area, we would pack it all up again. We would try to figure out where we're going next, and we would take off. So I don't feel like there was a lot of downtime, but it sure was fun, and it was great to have amazing people who were funny, and we tell stories, and it was good to have company in the woods.
Yeah. And a couple of fun logistics things. We created a map ahead of time with the aid station locations that they would go to and kind of the distance between them, which is all well and good. It's great when it works, but when you don't have reception and you pull up Google Maps and then you touch something and your map disappears, that makes it interesting. So again, a lot of this is things always break, things always go wrong. But the first time doing something like this and being like, oh, well, we'll probably have to find a better way to do it in the future if we did this again.
And I guess the last challenge that we had was just trying to read Adam and make sure that he had the right fueling, after, 20 hours of running. He wasn't really hungry to eat anything, but he has to get calories in, he has to get salt and electrolytes and water. And so forcing him to eat was kind of the last challenge. And we just wouldn't give him an option. We'd tell him, eat this.
I was getting so internally just frustrated, but I knew what they were doing. And I was just like, I don't want any of this. But yeah.
But it was a lot of fun. And we honestly, it's so cool to be a part of such a special event and a special, challenge that Adam has set for himself. So kind of an honor to be a part of it, and really proud of you.
Cool. Thank you. And thanks for sharing.
Of course. Anytime.
Real quick, I just want to say thank you to so many of you, friends, family, helpful businesses, people I haven't even met yet in person. I truly, truly appreciate you and the support you gave for this. Locally, we had support from Woodpepper Bread, Cayuta Sun Farms, and Flake Pastry. It was a huge boost not only to myself, but also to my support crew. And we also I had support from Topo Athletic. They donated a pair of trail shoes that I wore for part of the run. That was amazing. Thank you. Also, Tailwind. Tailwind creates or makes endurance kind of electrolyte fuel energy mixes, which I use continuously during the run. I've been using it for years. They gave me a huge discount on that, which was amazing for training and also for the run itself. So thank you for that. So I'm going to now transition into some of the video clips and pictures that I took, others took. We've gotten those all together. I'm going to be narrating a little bit of that at some points, giving some context to that. So we'll keep running into that. And if you want to check those out, please stick around. Thank you. Okay, here we go. So this is first thing in the morning. Jenny's dropping me off. We got started about 5 a.m. As far as trying to get started. I think we started at 502 or 503. And then I got headed off down the road. This was a reroute at the very beginning because of the trail losing landowner permission. Anyways, without getting into the details, had a little bit of time on a kind of an improved surface road here. Funny note, about 1 minute after Jenny turned around, just around the bend there in this picture, I came across what I thought was a large porcupine, but turned out to be a huge skunk. And luckily he kind of scuttled across the road, but he started kind of running with me. And I heard someone laughing, and I looked over to the side, and there was an older couple smoking a cigarette on their porch, and then the guy just looks at me and says, "Looks like he's going jogging with you." So that was an interesting start to all of this, but anyways, turned out well. Ran with me for about 30-40 feet and then took off into the woods. So after about 4 miles, made it back to where we spent the night, little cabin in a campground, and this worked out really well. The trail actually went through the campground, and I was able to switch out into some of my trail gear, grab everything I needed, ditch a few things, and then get going. Had a lot of great views as the sun came up. I did have about an hour and a half in the complete dark, and then as the sun started coming up, just really, really beautiful. And you can see here some of the examples of, finding the way. This is a trail sign, and it's actually lit up more to the eye. This doesn't show it as well. This was pretty easy to find, but this might be what you're looking for on the side of the road as the trail crosses a road or something like that. And then moving on as the sun came up more, really started to get some gorgeous views. And like this panoramic shot, this is just gorgeous up there. This is maybe in the first 7, 8, 9 miles. After that, got to connect with Jenny. This is the first aid station. This was really nice, and the beginning of this entire whole video I'm sharing with the drone shot was just right after this. There was a nice downhill section, and there's going to be some more coming up after this shot where I took another video with the drone as I was going through a field. This is pretty common on the Finger Lakes Trail, where landowners are allowing the trail to go past. You might be on the side or even inside one of their pastures or something like that. So we'll just kind of flip over and we'll get started on that. So you can see here in the hills some really nice colors, just beautiful. And trying to figure out if I'm supposed to turn or not, and yep, turning right into the sun. But this was nice. The temperature was really nice. It ended up getting warmer that day. Probably, I think it hit a little bit over 80. But in the morning, it was about, I think it was 50. So pretty nice. Got some deer who are going to take off here in the corner. If you keep your eyes peeled, you can see them in the field in the left corner. Right there. They can see the tails as they take off into the woods. They heard me coming. So here's just some shots of the trail as we move towards Urbana, town outside of Hammondsport. In this section, it's actually on an old railroad track for about 50 feet before heading back into the woods, crossing this nice little bridge, and just some more shots of how things were looking in the morning. It's just beautiful. And then meeting back up with Jenny at Urbana, and she's got a picture of me coming in, and then she's got the spread, the layout. This is while Jenny was doing the support herself before our friends showed up. And I've got things mixed up a little bit time-wise, but I did that on purpose just to kind of keep things flowing here. And so we can talk about food. Very, very important, obviously. But this was so good. We had tried to go to Vern's Bakery in Hammondsport a month or two ago, and we got there, I think, an hour after they closed. We misunderstood the hours. Anyways, Jenny swung by between stops and picked up this monster savory croissant and some other treats. I probably had 3 or 4 bites of this, but that was the downside. I can't take on too much food at once. So enjoyed what I could, and Jenny got the rest of it. So a little ways down the road, our friends Brad and Ashley showed up. This was an aid station coming off the road. I had done maybe a half mile on a state route with some really smelly roadkill, and was super happy to see them and get back onto the trail. And got to make use of Ashley's, what she called the meat tenderizer. You can see it in my hands there. It's like the spiky roller balls. So that felt really good on the back of the legs. Just a little bit of quick rolling before getting back up and getting out. And I'd mentioned things getting warmer. Definitely here we're talking 80-ish degrees. And this was so nice. Jenny had got me this bandana that's kind of sewed in half but has holes on the sides so you can stuff ice in it. and I hadn't used it in a long time. And man, I'm so glad we had that. And our friends had brought ice bags, so they stuffed ice in there, and that really helped keep me cool. This is just showing some of the blowdown, and they've done a really good job of clearing the trail. You can see here, or maybe you can't. I can barely tell it while I'm recording over this. I'm in there somewhere, but I've just basically got the one log to clear. But the trails are maintained, again, the FLTC, volunteer crews, people coming out here and doing a lot of work. And this is honestly a pretty nice section as far as blowdown goes. There were some sections, I came across some trail volunteers. I believe it was John and Bill, and they had been out marking and clearing with chainsaw. And I was super thankful. There were some spots that were really bad, would have turned into quite the obstacle course. All right, so here we are. I'm trying to remember what aid station this was, and I can't recall off the top of my head, but we're getting up there. Jenny is going to run with me here. She did about 6 miles, and from here, that's right, at the end of this, we're at about mile 49, so this is about 43 miles in. Feeling pretty good, and, really just taking things aid station to aid station is how I do it, and I've done this on other races as well, where it can be overwhelming to think of, I've got 43 miles down, only 57 to go. That can be really hard to deal with mentally. So a lot of times you just approach it as, I've got 6 miles to the next aid station, and you count that down. Then get to the next aid station. Then get to the next aid station. Just keep doing it that way. So here's me and Jenny. This is shortly down the trail. Actually, that's not really a drink. I believe that was a Gatorade cup of strawberries. So they cut the stems off strawberries for me, and I would take a Gatorade cup of snacks with me down the trail, walk for a bit, give the stomach time to deal with that, and then just crumple up the cup and stuff it in my vest and get rid of it at the next aid station. And sweating a lot in the middle of the day for sure. But now as the sun's starting to go down, just again, some beautiful colors. This is getting towards the early evening. And our first named aid station. So shout out to Mike and Dave Bond, our friends in Seattle. They sponsored one of the aid stations with their donation. And this was about, we'll call it halfway. So this was about 49 miles in. So down the trail a little bit is where I hit the halfway point, and feeling pretty good. So definitely, I'm not going to lie, some soreness here. Don't feel fresh by any means, but felt pretty good until I started getting into the 60, 65 mile range. Was honestly, no real issues, anything I really thought about. So as we went into nighttime, this really surprised me. This was a lot of fun. I thought that I had come to an aid station really early, but it was Margaret. Margaret had run a 100-mile race 2 weeks ago in Oregon. And she still came out. She drove over an hour to come out, and then parked and came down the trail to find me because she didn't have a ton of time. And she ended up running, I think, 3 miles in back to the aid station with me. And when I saw her, I thought it was the aid station. I was like, oh, wow, I was really off, but that's great. I'm so happy to be at the aid station. And that it was just Margaret. But that was really nice to have someone to run with. And she was one of the 3 main pacers I had besides the crew. Jenny and Ashley also did some running with me. So this was after we wrapped up the section and right before I was headed into Watkins Glen to pick up my second pacer. So skipping forward here, we got into Watkins Glen, and there'll be a picture of Pete, my second pacer, here in a minute. This was the aid station just outside of Watkins Glen in a town called Burdett. So this is really cool, just showing some of the fun places that they set up. And here we go. So this is me, and this is the general look on my face when I'm looking at food at this point. It's just like, yeah, I gotta eat it. It is what it is. Pete in the background there, and we got started off down the road and had a lot of walking to do, a lot of climbing we had done to get to here. A little bit better spirits there. And then this was me and Pete coming out miles and miles later, a couple aid stations later. I think he ended up running 15, 16 miles with me. We came out of an area called Texas Hollow after an enormous climb, and really thankful to have him there through a chunk of the night. So there's me and Pete, and Pete handed me off at an aid station. And speaking of aid stations, this is a good close-up. At the middle of the night, this is the type of stuff they were setting up. We got all sorts of food. Jenny had picked up these cool little containers, so stuff was covered and bugs weren't getting on them. This was really, truly amazing. and just so thankful for that. So after Pete, Diana was the next pacer, and she picked me up at probably the low point. This was coming up on maybe I think it was 4:45 in the morning, so 4:40, 4:45 in the morning, really tired, just exhausted, and no major problems, just, been up all night running and just didn't feel amazing. So we got started, and there's unfortunately a lack of pictures because everyone was tired at this point. So here we are a couple aid stations later. This is after an aid station where we had headed out, and about a mile down, we're kind of jogging next to a stream. I just felt like my eyes weren't focusing well, and I was really having trouble keeping track of the ground in front of me. And I just said, Diana, do you mind if I just lay down for a couple minutes? I promise I'll be up in 5 minutes. And, she said, no, that's fine. Let's do what you need. I'm going to poke you with my poles in 5 minutes. And so I just threw my pack down and put my head down on it and kind of curled up for 4 minutes. And I'm happy to say I got up before she had to poke me with the poles. And that did the trick. Thankfully, everything was fine. I think I was just exhausted. Eyes were probably tired, and just needed to literally be closed for a couple minutes. So this is us coming in a couple aid stations later after, again, more climbing. I think this picture encapsulates probably how I looked most of the time, and then was able, to perk up and take a little bit better picture there. So thank you, Diana. Really appreciated the pacing, the conversation, and dealing with my ups and downs. Speaking of food, turns out, so Jenny had mentioned it, that, I wasn't interested in a lot of food, and that's the case. It sometimes can be difficult to figure out what your body wants or is going to tolerate. And I decided to give the guacamole a go and just grabbed a fork and started going. So that actually worked out pretty well, which kind of makes sense. Soft food, not dry, and a good amount of calories and fat. So that's a new one to me. I've never just sat there and ate straight up guacamole on a run, but hey, if it works, it works. So after that, Diana had to take off, and so got some miles done on my own. Headed back out on the trail. This was kind of fun. Although it's not in this picture, I met up with people going the opposite direction as me, and this was when I was at about mile 92, and we stopped and chatted real quick, and they said, "Oh, where are you going?" And in my head, I was just trying to think, how can I say this without going into all the details? And I told them the name of the park I was headed towards, and they said, well, you're going the wrong way. And in my head, I'm thinking like, no, I'm pretty sure I'm right. If there's one thing I know, it's where I'm going. Like, I can get a lot of things wrong, but not that. And then another part of me is like, oh my God, what if I am going the wrong way? So anyways, I thought about it. I talked to them, and, I said, well, here's the deal. I've been up for, 29 hours at this point. I said, I may be out of my mind, so take it with a huge grain of salt, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. But if you guys know where you're parked and where you're going, you'll be fine. So anyway, saw them at this aid station I'm coming up to in the picture about 20 minutes later, and they said, hey, thanks for the heads up. We were definitely going the wrong way. And I just smiled and waved at them, and we saw them again later on. So here's a little shot Jenny took with the drone. We've got the aid station set up at the edge of the trail. And Ashley's getting ready to take off with me to do a section here before the final section. So me and Jenny now are headed out on our final section. I've got, I think it was a 3.3 mile section from the last aid station running into the finish. And I will say that was pretty difficult. I was definitely getting to the point here where of all the things, my feet hurt the worst. But I could keep moving. I could keep kind of a slow jog. And although my hat was incredibly wonky, I didn't care. And it was just nice to have somebody with me. And to have Jenny there at the end was pretty special. So as we came in, this was the finish line that some friends set up. We've got the toilet paper finish line, and we're way back there in the woods coming out. And I've got a little bit of a video here of the actual finish. Oh man, I was so thankful. I'm glad, one, that to have a finish was nice, have some people there, and then to walk over to the other side of the road and Brad was cooking up a storm. So we had some bread donated by Woodpepper Bread. You can see it here on the bottom. It is delicious. And Brad went to work and started making breakfast sandwiches for everyone. So that was super nice, a great way to finish things off. And here I am very happily about to chow down on that breakfast sandwich. Thank you again, Brad. That was amazing. And then Jenny got me into the car, after probably 10-15 minutes, realized like, well, we should probably get headed home before it was definitely warming back up again. It was going to be, I think, 82 that day. So packed everything up, and now this is me about 2 minutes into that car ride. So Jenny got me home, and from there just got cleaned up and took the rest of the day. Pretty much took a huge nap, and then had a real big meal that Jenny went out, got some food, and thankfully she was able to do all that. I know she was tired as well, so really thankful that she was able to do it. So I just want to say again, thank you for being a part of this, for helping support it, for making it happen, and just really appreciate it. And thank you again so much.
Is this where we do a blooper reel too?
Dang it.